In February 1996, I was a junior in college, and like many college students, I was feeling a little bit lost in life. I had declared a major that I wasn't so sure about. I had a boyfriend who, although a wonderful human being, I wasn't so sure about. And my life ahead, well, in general, just not so sure. So when my older brother Jason called me up and asked if I'd like to take a semester off and ride my bicycle with him from Seattle to Texas, I was intrigued. Now, like most kids, I spent a good portion of my childhood riding my bike, but this would be different. This wouldn't be go out for a few hours, come back in, eat a PBJ. This would be go out for months, ride a lot, over mountains. I still rode my bike a decent amount at this point, but nothing long and certainly not strenuous. So I told him I'd think about it, and I did. And there were many reasons not to do it, but the biggest one was my fear that maybe I wouldn't make it. But there was also this little voice inside of me that was telling me to take a chance and just do it. So I called my brother and told him the good news, and he was excited. Then I called my parents and told them the good news, and they were thrilled. Because nothing makes your parents happier than telling them you're going to take a semester off of college and go ride your bike. They actually were not at all thrilled and tried to talk me out of it. They liked the idea in theory, but wanted me to finish school first. And I understood that. I really did. But I had made up my mind, and I was going. Hey. So when August rolled around, it was time for me to depart. My parents had come around to the idea. They even threw me a going-away party, got me a cake that said Bon Voyage, and had a little bicycle on it. I felt their support, even though I could tell they were still worried. The next morning, I hopped on a Greyhound bus, rode 59 and a half hours out to Seattle to begin my adventure. We stayed in Seattle for a few days before taking off, and during this time, my bike got stolen. Not a great start, but we rolled with it. I bought a used bike, a way better lock, and my brother Jason and I packed up our things and hit the open road. Even as we took our first pedals, I had no idea what to expect, but I had always looked up to my brother and trusted him, and I knew it would be okay. I had done a decent amount of traveling as a kid. My parents were big planners with traveling, though. So when we took a trip as a family, we knew exactly where we were going and when we would get there. And we did that. So being flexible while traveling was something that was really foreign to me. I didn't really know how to do that. The first few weeks, Jason planned everything out for us. We had a general idea of where we wanted to go. We wanted to go from Seattle to Texas, though after about a week, we changed our destination to the Grand Canyon. But the trip along the way was going to be determined day by day. This was before cell phones and smartphones, which makes traveling spontaneously so much easier. But for this trip, we had to do things the old-fashioned way. Jason would look at a map, figure out how far we could go based on terrain, distances between towns, things we wanted to see, stuff like that. And he would plan where we would go, what roads we would ride on, where we would get food, where we would camp. He had it all down. And as we got into the trip, he taught me how to figure that kind of stuff out too. At first, it was sort of nerve-wracking to make all those decisions, but soon I got the hang of it. Okay. It was great. And it was fun, but it was difficult. We were carrying a lot of stuff and going up these huge hills. After a month or so, we decided to send our tent back, along with a couple of other things that we weren't using. It was making things more difficult, weighing us down, taking time to set up and take down each day, and really we could get by without it. So we decided to stop lugging it around and start sleeping under the stars. And like any time you let go of baggage that isn't serving you anymore, it was a great decision and life got easier. Look at how light my load looks right there. It's very exciting. I look so much happier also. So after about 2.5 months, we finally made it to the Grand Canyon. After biking over 2,000 miles, we hiked down to the bottom, camped overnight, and hiked out the next day. Then we rode up to Flagstaff, mailed our bikes home, and began our journey back to New York. I like to say that we rode by the seat of our pants and by the kindness of strangers. I think I've always been an optimist and always believed that people are good, and this trip solidified that for me. We needed help from people along the way, and we got it. It would have been an added challenge to carry enough water for us from town to town, so instead we each carried a water bottle or two, and when we needed water, we stood at the side of the road, held up a sign that said, "Need water," and it never took long for someone to pull over and share what they had with us. We met a man named Lyle in Enterprise, Oregon, who saw us reading in a park during a break, and chatted us up and offered for us to stay in his home for as long as we wanted. Free. We took him up on it. We stayed about a week, and then there were other times that we needed rides, and people gave them to us. Some kind older ladies drove us up to the Hoh rainforest one day, and some cute 20-something boys brought us back. When we needed to I was 20 at the time, so I was super into that. All right. When we needed to get to a bigger city for a part on my wheel that had broken, Jason and I rode in the back of I don't know why I keep pointing to this picture because this is not the right one yet, but we rode in the back of a pickup truck for what felt like forever, but we got there safe and sound and got the part. There were lots of other little jaunts on our trip. Now, taking a ride from a stranger wasn't something that was comfortable for me at the first. I had seen the Different Strokes episode where Kimberly gets into the car and things go horribly awry, and that was playing through my brain all the time, every time I got into a car with a stranger. But my perspective changed along the way, so much so that we had originally planned to take a bus from Flagstaff back to New York, but instead decided to hitchhike. This is Dick. He was the first truck driver who got us started on our journey home from Flagstaff. He loved Creedence Clearwater Revival. I no longer do. And his trucker handle for the CB was Uncle Duck, so that's what we called him. Incidentally, mine was Pink Flamingo. Anyway, to get home from Flagstaff, we caught rides with 5 truckers. We slept in their trucks, got to know them, became really good at small talk, and I even got to drive a big rig for a little while on the highway. Now, I'm not recommending hitchhiking. I am not. But for us, it worked out, and we met some very kind people. When we got back from the trip, I felt strong in every way. I had confidence that I hadn't had before. I felt like I could do anything. I felt independent, strong, and capable. My bike trip had its ups and downs, literally, but it's hands down the best experience I could have had to help me learn about myself and gain skills that have helped me in life and as a leader. And while I made some decisions that were risky along the way, I would encourage both of my children or anyone to do something like this in a heartbeat. Take the trip. Don't be afraid of a long journey. Take it one step or pedal at a time. Be flexible. When things go wrong or not how you thought they would, roll with it. Learn the skills you need to be independent, and don't be afraid to ask for help and rely on others. Do what works for you, even if it isn't what works for everyone else. And probably, above all, take a risk. Again, not condoning hitchhiking, but the risk of doing something that might be scary, but you have that little voice inside you urging you on. Listen to it. It might just take you on the best adventure of your life. Thank you.